In the latest leaks for Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo, a single attack from Yuji Itadori tells us how much he has changed. During the encounter, Yuji uses blood manipulation on a scale and with a level of control that we simply have not seen before. Not because the technique itself is strong or overpowered, but because of how precisely and casually it is applied. Even Choso, who used to be the most proficient blood manipulation user we had seen in the series so far, never demonstrated this degree of control or battlefield impact with a single action. What makes the moment even more striking is Yuji's reaction to it. The attack itself is visually overwhelming, incapacitating multiple targets at once, yet Yuji treats it almost as an afterthought, as if he had simply used more power than intended. There is no strain, no build-up, and no indication that this was meant to be a finishing move. It looks natural, almost accidental, and that raises a broader question. What exactly can we expect from Yuji Itadori in JJK Modulo? How strong has he become? And more importantly, is he the only character capable of standing against Deborah, a figure who has already been shown to scale near the level of Gojo and Sukuna? To understand that, we first need to look at Yuji's abilities as a sorcerer. From the beginning of the series, Yuji has been physically abnormal. In terms of raw strength and speed, he has consistently ranked among the very best in the verse, being second only to the likes of Maki or Toji, whose entire identities revolve around pure physical dominance. He has been shown throwing cards casually twice, overpowering and damaging special grade curses like Hanami or Sukuna purely in hand-to-hand combat, and easily endured being thrown from multiple buildings by Sukuna. But physical ability alone does not explain Yuji's threat level. Yuji has also shown an unprecedented affinity for Black Flash, initially using it 4 times in a row after having learned it on the spot during his fight against Hanami, matching the record held by Nanami of 4 Black Flashes in a row as well, and later beating that record by using 7 Black Flashes in a row in his fight against Sukuna. And this is all despite having been a sorcerer for less than a year at the time. This alone places him in rare territory, as Black Flash is not something that can be reliably forced or replicated even by experienced special grade sorcerers like Gojo or Sukuna. However, this too might have changed with Yuji in JJK Modulo. On top of that, Yuji had already achieved the foundational techniques that define Jujutsu sorcerers by the end of JJK. He can use reverse curse technique, deploy new shadow style simple domain, and access domain expansion. These are not supplementary abilities. They are the baseline requirements for top tier combatants in the Jujutsu world. And then there is the most dangerous factor about Yuji, the fact that he is a vessel. Yuji's body can assimilate cursed objects and inherit aspects of the techniques. After consuming the death painting wombs, Yuji was not shown to immediately acquire the entirety of blood manipulation, but even towards the end of Jujutsu Kaisen, he demonstrated partial use of the technique. Now, in JJK Modulo, we see just how far that ability has evolved, to the point where it is reasonable to assume that Yuji may have unlocked additional aspects of blood manipulation that were previously unavailable to him. This same principle applies to Shrine. By consuming Sukuna's fingers, Yuji gained access to Sukuna's curse technique, including Dismantle and Cleave, with the possibility of Flame as well. However, when Yuji used Shrine against Sukuna, he had only just awakened the technique. Sukuna himself notes that Yuji's output at the time was low, meaning that what we saw was not a refined or fully powered version of Shrine, but an early and unstable manifestation, which makes the implications far more concerning. High-level sorcerer combat is not built solely on strength or technique, but on adaptability. Sorcerers constantly read cursed energy flow, anticipate attack timing, and adjust their responses based on patterns they recognize. Victory often goes to the fighter who can adapt faster than their opponent and who has the most versatility in terms of their abilities. Yuji excels in this environment because he does not simply rely on one method. This is not only shown through his ability to inherit curse techniques, but also through his use of binding vows. During his fight with Sukuna, Yuji applied a binding vow to Dismantle that allowed it to specifically target the boundary between Sukuna's soul and Megumi's, effectively separating the two. This is not just a clever application of Shrine, it is proof that Yuji can modify curse techniques at a fundamental level. In theory, this means Yuji could apply different binding vows to Dismantle depending on the enemy by adjusting conditions, narrowing the effects, and increasing the technique's efficiency for specific targets. Considering that this was done while Shrine was still operating at low output, the ceiling for this ability is significantly higher than what we had already seen. This brings us back to JJK Modulo and the threat of Deborah. Deborah is not framed as a conventional antagonist. His scaling places him near the upper limits of the verse, comparable to Gojo and Sukuna, and yet the narrative increasingly positions Yuji as the only character capable of dealing with him. The blood manipulation attack shown in the recent leaks reinforces this idea. The scale of the technique is massive, but what stands out most is Yuji's composure. The attack does not appear to be a calculated finisher, but rather an instinctive response, as if Yuji himself did not consider it extraordinary to incapacitate that many opponents at once. This level of mastery suggests that blood manipulation has become fully integrated into Yuji's fighting style, rather than something he consciously activates or manages. At the same time, JJK Modulo has repeatedly hinted granted that Yuji may no longer age, or at the very least that his physical condition has remained fixed at its peak. While it may be premature to describe him as truly immortal, the implication is that Yuji is no longer bound by the same biological limits as ordinary sorcerers. So what does Yuji's future actually look like? While his base physical abilities may not have changed drastically, even though that is debatable, they were already among the best in the series. The real evolution lies in his control, efficiency, and versatility. Yuji's ability with Black Flash suggests that he may now be able to trigger it far more consistently than before, likely under specific internal conditions, but with a level of reliability unmatched by any other sorcerer. His growth with blood manipulation opens the door to advanced techniques such as convergence, supernova, or even flowing red skill, which would dramatically increase his physical performance and combat flexibility. When combined with death painting abilities like Wing King, Yuji gains enhanced mobility on top of his already overwhelming presence. Then there is Shrine. With further refinement, high output, and strategic use of binding vows, Yuji's version of Dismantle and Cleave could rival the original in terms of lethality, especially when applied with precision rather than raw destruction, unlike a certain King of Curses. And finally, Yuji can still consume additional cursed objects, including the remaining finger of Sukuna, which would further strengthen Shrine and expand his arsenal. Yuji Itadori began as a sorcerer defined by circumstance, forced into a world he barely understood. Now, he stands as one of the most adaptable and dangerous beings in the Jujutsu world, not because he overwhelms his enemies with raw power alone, but because his growth has no clear endpoint. And in a system where adaptability determines survival, that may be the most frightening potential of all.